Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Scott Schilling. I'm the CTO of mTusker. Today, we're going to talk about commissions. This is part one of a three-part set of videos to do that. Our primary discussion this morning will be all about the commission register record. This is the tool that we use to control all of the commissions that are coming into the system. So we have a file up here in the commissions called commission register. So these things called commission registered records are here. Let me show you an example of one of them. On this record, we're going to have the vendor, your contract start dates if you want to track them. We're going to have various different dates if you want to track them. We are going to have various different links if you want to see them as well. All right. Then on this side, we're going to have the splitting information. Then on this side, you can have the various different products associated with this particular contract for this particular client, for this particular vendor. So before we actually start talking about these things and going into a little more in depth, I'd like to review kind of the flow of what a commission register record is, what we're doing with it. So we'll start out by just talking a little bit about what is a CRR. Every line item, every commission line item is matched and controlled by a CRR. In here, we will do tolerance checking. We will check the absolute value of the commission amount or the MRC. So if you're expecting $100, then the system is going to expect $100, and we'll give you a tolerance that you control of, say, an average of 5 to 10% if it goes up and down. Some of these things have ranges. If you have a lot of usage fees, you might range from 10 cents to $100. So this way, if you're checking your tolerances and it's within the range, then you'll be okay. Secondarily, we then double check to make sure that the contracted carrier percentage that you're being paid is correct. So we say, okay, we'll look at the commission amount, we'll look at the net billed or MRC, and we'll double check to make sure that it's indeed the contracted amount that you have. So if you're expecting 20% and the MRC and NRC is not a 20% ratio, well, then we will air it out. If it passes that, then we'll double check to make sure if you have a different percentage for a particular product, then we're like, okay, fine. So this might be 20%, but a particular product might pay only, say, 16%, which is okay as long as you're contracted accordingly. So then we'll double check to say, okay, is it this product? Is this net billed commission paid indeed proper? Then occasionally you'll have a product that's unique, but the product percent may change for different clients or different customers. So for customer A, that product might be 16%, and customer B, it might be 18%. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to check to make sure that the commissions that are coming to you are indeed correct. So the first thing we check is absolute value. Then we check these if you have values in there for us to check. Next, splitting. So the commission register record will also give you your complete control of how you're going to split that commission. Some of it's going to stay with you, what we call the house. Some of it will be overrides and percentages paid to direct agents. Some of these are going to be split to your sub-agencies that you will be paying, VARs, MSPs, whatnot, but these are companies. And then we'll talk a little bit about advanced splitting. So you might have on a particular register record, you may be doing some generic payments to these, but then on a particular product, you might have an advanced split where you might have the split ratios maybe a little bit different. And then finally, I'll show you how to put in the fees. So for processing fees, you might want to charge your agents $5 a month, and you maybe want to charge your agencies $20 a month. It's up to you. All right, so let's go finish off with this PowerPoint and talk a little bit about the basic flow. So when you're importing your commissions, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a commission record and we're going to double check to say, is there a CRR there? This is for a vendor, for a client, for the client, the vendor ID that's associated with that client. We're going to try to find it. If it's not there, we're going to drop it to something called a mystery file. So if you're suddenly get a record you're not expecting, maybe the company paid you for somebody else's customer, well, then it's going to drop here. So you can go look at it. Then once we say, okay, yes, the CRR is there, then we double check to make sure that the product is there. So let's just take a quick look here. I'll just jump back over here. So on this example, the vendor ID number or the carrier ID number is this, the carrier name is this, and you have it matched with this company here on your CRM. Now this is important because sometimes this might be Landlocked Production Inc., and on your CRM you might have it just Landlocked Productions. So we want to make sure that we tie all commissions to an account, or it might be a sub-account. That's how we do that here. Now here is where we have all of our products that are being sold. So this particular client, for this particular account number, they have these products. This is the MRC that's expected, or sometimes called net billed. This is the residual commission that you're expecting to receive on that. So the system will come through. It will say, is the CRR here? Yes, great. Now it'll check to see if the product is there. All right, now I'm going to come back here to my PowerPoint. If the products are there, so we have a successful matchup, then we're going to go into tolerance checking. So like I said before, the first thing we're going to do is check the absolute value. So I'm going to come back here and say, all right, I've got a record here. It's for a dynamic IP T1 port change. And I'm expecting a residual payment of $57.43, and I have a tolerance set at 10%. That means that it can range $5.70 up and $5.70 out. So we can set up a range. 10% is kind of big. Seems like most companies like to use 5%. All right, now I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. So first we'll do is check the absolute value to make sure you're within your tolerance. The second check we do is the vendor percentage. The third check is the product percentage. And I'm going to come back over here. Now it just so happens that we don't have those loaded. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the carrier percent now. So this is for Windstream. So I'm going to jump over here to my providers. Go to my provider list, and I'm going to find Windstream. Now we're going to assume, I'm going to go into edit, that the carrier, my contracted carrier percent is going to be a straight 20%. All right, so now I'm going to save this. Now I'm going to trip back to my CRR. So now every single CRR that's associated with Windstream is going to have a 20% associated with it. All right, so here's 20%. So now we will check to make sure that this is 20% of this. What we found historically is it's not really the most common thing to happen. All right, so what we found is generally the carriers do indeed pay their percentages. What really wobbles all over the place is the absolute value. Next is products. So let's take this one, Dynamic IP T1. Let's say, for example, Windstream pays 16% on this product itself. All right, so how do we do this? So I'm going to go over to inventory, and I'm going to select carrier products. Now, mTusker, when it's creating and building CRRs, it will dynamically put the put the products over here. All right. I believe this was it. I'm going to go in and edit it. And I'm going to say this one pays 16%. All right. I'll save that. I'll go back to the CRR now. Here we go. So now the system says, okay, for every single CRR that Windstream pays, we'll check tolerance of 20%. And for every single Windstream product called Dynamic IPT1 port change, it pays 16%. So we will check to make sure that this percentage is correct. Well, we like to do about tolerance of about 0.5% because rounding sometimes can screw that up. Then finally, I want to show you one more thing, which is coming out next week. You can override this percentage for a given client. You might have a product that pays 16% or 18% or something different than the generic across the board. Or you might have this particular client, this one centrally might be forever a different value for this client. So you have a way to override if you need to. All right, so I'm going to come back to my CRR I was working with. Lastly, we'll talk about advanced splits. So in this scenario, if you have a different kind of split, maybe you want to pay a different percentage or a different split on a particular product, you can do that. So I'm going to click advanced splits. If an advanced split is there, it'll be purple. If you don't have an advanced split, it'll just be green. So on this particular one, here's that port change. On this one, we're going to change the splits instead of 45, 5, and 50 to United. This is an agency. We would say, okay, this one's is the upfront payment is going to be $25.75 to James Kirk. So then you have a lot of ways to manipulate and have advanced splits. You can change these by product, or you can change them however you wish. Now, let's do a quick summary, and I'll bring this to an end. All right. For, commissions processing, everything is controlled by the commission register record, every single line item. We match them up, then we perform tolerance checking. We first check the absolute value. If there's a range, we'll make sure it's in the range. If that passes, then we'll check to make sure the carrier percent is correct. If that passes, then we'll double check the product percent if it's something different. And if you have an override, we'll do that as well. We go along and say, all right, you can split a lot of different ways. You can base your splits off the MRC, and then it's be just 13%, 40%, whatever it is. Or you can split the commission itself, or you can do combinations of the two. You can split certain amount, keeps for the house, agencies, and of course, advanced splitting. Now, I'll talk about agency fees to partners and partnerships in the next video when we start talking about the actual processing. So processing goes along like this. A record comes in. We check to see if a CRR is there. If it is, great. We'll check to see if the product is there. If it's not, we'll dump these to something called a mystery file. And we'll talk about that in the next video. Then we check tolerance. If you're okay, we'll go here, up, we'll do split processing, and on into the active file, things ready to be paid. If it doesn't, if there's something out of whack here, you're expecting $100 and you got paid $10, it's going to go down to the adjustment file. So in the next video, we'll talk about mystery file, adjustment file, active file, and payments. And the third and final one, we'll talk about analytics. So thank you, everyone, and have a nice day.